Hello again, everyone. So I promised myself that I would not practice these, so I'm going to do this off the cuff. But I am this month talking about front-end perfectionism. So last month we talked about what we generally think about as when we talk about perfectionism, which is like having an unreasonable standard for the product. Like, oh, it's going to have to, in order for me to be done with this paper, it needs to be perfect. In order for me to be done with this presentation that I'm making, it has to be like absolutely perfect, and it's not defined enough. So we just like keep working on it. And it's kind of like compulsive. Today we're talking about front-end perfectionism, which is the flavor of perfectionism. It's a type of perfectionism that's more common for people with ADHD, though I think we can almost all like recognize this in ourselves sometimes. So front-end perfectionism is the idea of having like rigid standards or preconditions that must be met before like engaging in a task to start with, before getting started. So you can tell how that would really make it difficult to get started, to initiate a task. So the idea is like, okay, if the circumstances are just right, then I can perform this task. If the circumstances are not just right, then I can't perform the task. And we see that there's a lot of like self-distrust in that. If the internal and external conditions have to be just right, that means that if everything outside of me and inside of me isn't perfect, then I can't do the thing. Even if the thing is like doing the dishes. We don't actually have to have the situation be perfect. We don't have to pick the perfect music or the perfect podcast to do it. We just have to like be able to stand and move a little bit, which sometimes we might not be able to complete that task, but generally when we're avoiding it, it's not because those things aren't right. Oh, my music is just not working. So some examples that I have in the email that I think really help in thinking about this is like, I'm not in the mood to do it. I have to, which suggests that you have to be in the mood to do something. And I don't know about you guys, but like I would never be in the mood to like do my taxes. Like that's not something that I'm going to be in the mood for. So that's going to be too high of a bar to set for yourself, for your internal conditions in order to get a task done. So of course we're going to avoid it. External conditions are like, oh, the coffee shop or the library is too full in order to do the activity. You could have some sensory issues with things that are too loud, so that might be the case, but then maybe you can bring some headphones or go to a different quiet space, but you want to make sure the bar isn't so high that it's never going to be met. I also hear for people who have ADHD that it's like, oh, I need to be hyper-focused in order to do this task. Do we really need to be in the zone, in the flow in order to get it done? Or could we maybe get started, and then actually getting started is what gets us in the zone? Like we're actually going to be able to hyperfixate, maybe, if we get started, not the other way around. And sometimes other things I hear is like, oh, I have to want to do it. Unfortunately, we don't always have to have the choice. Sometimes there are activities that we need to do even though we don't want to do them. Or I need to do blank first. Oh, I need to clean before I can study because I'm too distracted by everything. It's like, there could be a range of what is acceptable within that of like, oh, I need to have a place to literally put my computer or my notebook or my book. Okay, so it needs to be clear enough there. But that involves just push it to the side and sit down versus like my whole place has to be spotless before I can get started. Then that's really just avoidance. That's kind of procrastination then, rather than having like a reasonable standard. So the strategy that I had us focus on this month is to just start. It's a combination of like self-talk and then a tool that's great, which is a timer. So think to yourself, okay, starting might get me in the mood. Starting might get me in the mood. I might actually get in the mood if I get started. This is something that happened for me today, and also like starting a video where I'm like, oh, what is it? Oh, do I need to be like perfect, blah, 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 in order to make a video? No, not really. I don't think that that's a standard that needs to be met, but my brain tells me it does. And actually just getting started lets me just go, and it's fine. I got into the mood once I got started. So we have that self-talk. Starting might get me in the mood. Starting might get me in the mood. It's not guaranteed, but starting might get me in the mood. And actually, maybe it's like 75% of the time it works, which is pretty good for a tool. And then using a 5-minute timer. So then you say, like, I really don't have to do it. If I just start the timer, put on a timer for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever you can tolerate, maybe even just 1 minute, and say, okay, if I'm not in the mood by the time the timer goes off, I don't have to do it. Then you've kind of lowered the bar for yourself in just starting. You don't have to be in the mood to get started for those first 5 minutes. You can be as you are. And then at the end of the 5 minutes, if you still aren't in the mood, you get to stop. So those are some strategies that really help with front-end perfectionism. I'm really excited to talk to you guys in January about another topic, time blindness and time sucks. And I hope that you have a wonderful end to your year, and I'll see you in January. Bye.